In the early hours of October 26th, 2025, the balance in Eurasia shifted again. What began as a secret arms deal between Moscow and Pyongyang ended in chaos. Kim Jong-un had called it a strategic partnership of resistance. The price tag was $1.5 billion. The promise was simple. Russia would get shells, rockets, and short-range missiles. North Korea would get oil, food, and access to Russian military know-how. Both sides thought they had found the perfect trade. Both were wrong. To see how it fell apart, the story must start in mid-2024. Russia's ammunition stocks were dropping. The war in Ukraine was burning through shells at a brutal pace. Sanctions strained Russia's industry. Moscow went shopping. Pyongyang was isolated and desperate for resources. So North Korea stepped in. It offered over 1 million shells and hundreds of KN series missiles. In return, it wanted energy, food, and access to technology it could fold back into its own programs. This was not about ideology, it was about survival. By early 2025, the cracks were visible. Ukrainian intelligence began to intercept chatter about the new missiles. KN-23, KN-25. The reports were troubling. Missiles veered off course. Some failed to detonate. Others broke up mid-air. Debris recovered by Ukrainian teams told a harsh truth. Propellants looked aged. The seals were poor. Guidance units were crude and rushed. Many rounds had sat for years and were hastily repackaged. The findings humiliated Moscow. Units at the front started to mistrust the shipments. Some refused to use them. Commuters complained of storage and loading accidents. The lifeline looked more like a trap. Kyiv moved quickly to turn failure into an advantage. Western radar and tracking systems flagged launch patterns that did not match Russia's usual signatures. Analysts mapped storage sites that held North Korean stock. Within weeks, precision strikes lit up depots in occupied Donetsk and Luhansk. Plumes rose for hours. The losses were huge. The shock was larger. What had been sold as proof of anti-Western unity now looked like a symbol of incompetence and decay. The damage spread to Pyongyang. North Korea had risked a lot on this deal. It wanted status. It wanted leverage. Instead, it got exposure. Western satellites watched the pipeline from end to end. Rajin, Chongjin, rail hubs across the Russian Far East, transfers through Vladivostok, trains west to Primorsky Krai and Khabarovsk, then onward to Belgorod, Bryansk, and Rostov. The entire route was visible from space and the ground. Denials failed. New sanctions followed. Banks, shipping firms, brokers, and front companies linked to the trade were named and targeted. South Korea and Japan urged the United Nations. Even China signaled concern. That alone was a warning to Pyongyang. The circle of patience was closing. In Moscow, the mood soured. Defense officials grumbled about defective products. They blamed Pyongyang for the poor quality. But the truth was simpler. Russia's need was extreme. It was willing to gamble. The gamble backfired. The war machine had reached for a quick fix and grabbed a live wire. At the core of the disaster was a basic fact. Russia's wartime coalition was not based on trust. It was built on convenience. Iran, North Korea, and sometimes China had their motives. None wanted to go down with Moscow. When failures mounted, unity cracked. The North Korean deal made those cracks obvious. Ukraine seized the narrative and the initiative. Officials released images of fragments. They showed serial numbers and manufacturing marks. They explained how failures clustered around certain launch windows. They linked those windows to North Korean batches. Kyiv's message was blunt. Russia's foreign munitions were unreliable. Russia's partners were unreliable. Russia itself was running out of options. Now the focus shifts to how the collapse unfolded on the ground. In late 2024 and early 2025, Kyiv and its partners mapped the supply chain in detail. They tracked shipments leaving Rajin by rail. They watched trains snake across Siberia. The Trans-Siberian line became a data source. Communications were weakly encrypted. Schedules leaked. Crews chatted on open bands. This was the opening Ukraine needed. Electronic warfare units began to interfere with rail controls. Signals glitched. Timetables drifted. Delays stacked up. In March near Chita, a train carrying KN-25 rockets exploded. Russian officials blamed a mechanical fault. Independent analysts pointed to a targeted cyber event that overheated braking systems. Whatever the cause, the effect was clear. The network was fragile. The cargo was dangerous. Russia had to respond. It pulled manpower from the front to protect trains and yards. It added guards. It shifted routes. Every shift created new weak points. Every guard was one less soldier at the line. While the rails felt the pressure, the skies told their story. Near Avdiivka, Russian forces tried to use the new missiles to slow Ukrainian advances. Several launched, several failed. Some burst before impact. Others drifted far from targets. Ukrainian teams collected shard after shard. Each piece was evidence. Each piece fits the larger picture. Poor storage, rushed assembly, old propellants, weak seals, unreliable guidance. Kiev then went after the storage backbone. Drones hunted for clusters of trucks and containers. HIMARS reached out to known yards. Storm Shadow missiles hit hardened depots. In early July, a complex in the Belgorod region lit up the night. The blast was massive. Hundreds of tons of ammunition vanished in minutes. Many rounds traced to North Korean factories. By the end of summer, independent estimates put total losses from strikes near $780 million. That was almost half the value of the whole deal. For Russia, the money was gone, and the ammo was gone. For North Korea, the blow was political and personal. The blowback did not stop at explosions. Under pressure, insurers withdrew coverage for suspect shipments. Freight sat idle. Customs hold multiplied. By May, Pyongyang and Moscow were arguing over refunds and replacements. North Korea refused. Russia fumed. The unbreakable brotherhood began to look brittle. Ukraine's information campaign ran alongside the strikes. Officials briefed allies with hard proof. Evidence flowed in real time. This was hybrid warfare in full. Intelligence, cyber tools, precision weapons, and public messaging. The goal was not only to destroy stockpiles, it was to destroy confidence. It worked. Inside North Korea, the fallout turned inward. Kim Jong-un launched investigations. Ministers faced interrogations. Engineers and plant directors took the blame. Reports of purges spread. Whether every detail was true or not mattered less than the signal. The supreme leader wanted heads. The regime needed a story to tell the elite and the people. It chose sabotage and corruption. It avoided the harder truth about capacity and quality. Inside Russia, the narrative changed too. State media had praised the partnership. Now it spoke of self-reliance and domestic glory. It downplayed imports. It spun failures as plots. But soldiers at the front were not fooled. They handled the crates. They saw the markings. They saw what happened when rounds were loaded and fired. In chats and videos, they joked about made in DPRK. Then they stopped joking and refused to use some of it. Morale suffered. Abroad, the ripples widened. At the United Nations, new measures targeted networks that moved money, fuel, and parts. In Asia, South Korea and Japan stepped up exercises. Intelligence sharing with Europe deepened. The United States framed the debacle as a lesson. Authoritarian deals built on secrecy and need do not last. Beijing took notice. Chinese analysts warned that Pyongyang's moves threatened regional stability. Cross-border commerce cooled. Inspections grew tighter. North Korea felt the squeeze where it hurts most. On the battlefield, the impact became measurable. Russian artillery fire dropped on key fronts. Shell rationing increased. Units could not sustain long barrages. Ukraine had more breathing room for counterattacks and rotations. The psychological weight was just as real. A soldier who doubts his ammunition fights with caution. A commander who doubts his supplier's plans with fear. By October 26, 2025, at 3:58 a.m., the picture was clear. Russia had lost munitions, money, time, and face. North Korea had lost secrecy, access, and standing. The $1.5 billion deal that was meant to show strength instead showed weakness. It revealed the truth about Russia's support network. It is a patchwork held together by need, not by trust. What comes next? Russia will try to turn inward. It will push factories harder. It will look to Iran and Belarus for gaps. But shadows of North Korean failure will follow every shipment. North Korea will try to repair ties with China. It will tighten control at home. It will struggle with food and fuel. It will fear more exposure. Ukraine will keep doing what worked, map the routes, hit the depots, share the evidence, split the coalition. A slow grind can win a long war. There is also a larger lesson. Modern warfare is transparent. Satellites watch. Sensors listen. Code breaks locks. Precision guides the strike. Narratives move as fast as missiles. When a supply chain is weak, the whole war effort is weak. When a partner is unreliable, the whole alliance shakes. Every failure becomes a message. Ukraine learned to send those messages at scale. History will not remember this as a single failed purchase order. It will be a turning point. A moment when a grand claim of resistance met the hard limits of quality, capacity, and trust. A moment when Ukraine used brains and patience to unpick a billion-dollar plan. The moment two isolated regimes learned how heavy the cost of desperation can be. As dawn breaks on October 26th, one image lingers. A long train at a silent yard. Cars loaded with boxes nobody wants to touch. Guards are smoking in the cold. A radio hissing with broken code. A camera far above, watching it all. The alliance that sent that train is weaker now. The country that stopped it is stronger. And the war, shaped by steel and stories, moves into its next phase.